The enormous Starship Horizon decelerated as it reached the rendezvous location, its engines producing a gentle hum in the silence of space. On the bridge, Captain Jack Harris stood with a weathered but composed expression, knowing the weight of this moment. 2 centuries of exploring the cosmos had led humanity to this point, making initial contact with a sophisticated alien race. "Give me a status update," Jack said calmly. "Everything's running smoothly, Captain," Tom Wilson answered from his engineering station. The young officer's hands moved swiftly across his console. "The Vox vessels are holding their position at the coordinates we agreed on." Jack acknowledged this with a nod and adjusted his uniform. The United Earth Fleet had deployed their finest ships for this momentous occasion. Floating behind the horizon were 5 state-of-the-art warships, their polished hulls reflecting light from the far-off star. Protected at the center of this formation was an ancient spacecraft called the Prometheus. Jack's gaze drifted to the old vessel displayed on the main viewing screen. The Prometheus looked rough and angular, unlike the graceful curves of contemporary vessels. Its exterior showed old-fashioned metal plating and visible patches from past repairs. Many questioned why such an antiquated craft remained active, much less included in such a crucial mission. "Connect me to the Vox command ship," Jack instructed. The display flickered, revealing a tall being with light blue skin and large, dark eyes. Ambassador Trell from the Vox Collective bowed his head slightly. "Captain Harris, our collective is pleased to welcome you to this historic encounter." Trell spoke in flawless English, thanks to translation technology. "We're grateful, Ambassador Trell. Humanity is privileged to meet you," Jack responded with diplomatic courtesy. "We're eager to build peaceful relationships between our civilizations." "As are we. Our sensors confirm your ships have arrived without incident. We've arranged docking areas for your diplomatic delegation on our station." Jack nodded his agreement. "We value your hospitality. My team will transfer over shortly." When the screen went blank, Jack turned toward his second-in-command, Anna Lee. "What's your assessment?" Anna's brow furrowed slightly. "They've been constantly scanning us since arrival, sir, especially the Prometheus." "I noticed that as well," Jack said quietly. "Keep our defensive systems ready, but don't make it obvious. I want this meeting to succeed." 3 hours passed, and Jack now stood in the impressive reception chamber of the Vox station, surrounded by the unusual architecture of an alien society. The ceiling arched high overhead, and the walls appeared to glow from within. His diplomatic delegation mingled with Vox officials, exchanging polite introductions and careful observations. Ambassador Trell approached, accompanied by 2 other Vox wearing what looked like military attire. "Captain Harris, please meet Admiral Sex and Chief Engineer Drav. They're very curious about your spacecraft." Jack exchanged handshakes with both beings, noting their skin felt cool and smooth. "It's an honor. Our ships are designed mainly for exploration and diplomacy, though they do have defensive features." Admiral Sex made a sound the translator rendered as laughter. "Defensive features? Indeed, we observed your basic shield technology and propulsion methods." Jack maintained his pleasant expression despite the dismissive comment. "We find they meet our requirements well." "What intrigues us most," Engineer Drav said, "is the peculiar vessel in your group, the one called Prometheus. Our scans picked up some unusual readings." "The Prometheus is among our older spacecraft," Jack explained carefully. "It functions mainly as a ceremonial ship now, though it remains fully operational." "Ceremonial?" Sex laughed again, louder. "How charming. You humans keep antiques as active fleet members." Other Vox nearby had stopped to listen, and Jack saw several exchanging amused looks. "That vessel," Drav continued with obvious mockery, "employs propulsion and power technology that must be several 100 years outdated compared to your current systems. Our analysis indicates its defenses would fail against even our smallest patrol craft." Jack felt his crew growing tense around him. Lieutenant Wilson, present as technical advisor, spoke despite protocol. "The Prometheus has served our fleet with distinction for generations," he said, his young face flushed. "It's the longest continuously operating ship we have." "That's exactly the point," Sex said, addressing the growing audience of Vox. Our new human acquaintances travel space in museum exhibits. Look at these readings. A holographic display materialized in the room's center, showing detailed scans of the human fleet. The Vox officer manipulated it to focus on the Prometheus, highlighting different sections. Notice these primitive armor plates, Sex said, causing laughter among the Vox observers. And these propulsion components. We abandoned such designs 8 centuries ago. The power core seems to be basic nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion! Like children playing with simple toys. Jack kept his diplomatic smile, though it felt strained. Every civilization follows its own path of development, Admiral. We take pride in our achievements. Naturally, Ambassador Trell said, stepping forward with a calming gesture. We intend no disrespect, Captain Harris. It's simply that we anticipated more sophisticated vessels from a species capable of interstellar travel. Perhaps we can assist you, Drav offered. The Collective would gladly provide a technology exchange program. We could help you modernize your outdated systems. Jack noticed the gleam in the alien's eyes. This, he suspected, had been their intention from the start, to position humans as the lesser partner in any alliance, dependent on Vox technology. That's a kind offer, Jack replied carefully. We'll certainly discuss it with our government. However, we're quite satisfied with our present capabilities. Throughout the reception, the mockery grew more blatant. Vox officials pointed at the holographic Prometheus display, making jokes the translators sometimes declined to interpret. Jack's crew became increasingly uncomfortable, but followed his example of maintaining courteous responses. Upon returning to the horizon, Jack immediately assembled his senior staff. They spent the whole reception ridiculing our ships, Wilson said angrily as they gathered. Especially the Prometheus. I wanted to tell them what it's truly capable of, which is precisely what we cannot reveal, Jack reminded him firmly. The Vox are testing us, trying to determine our actual technological capabilities and military strength. Anna Lee, who had been quietly reviewing data from their visit, looked up from her device. Sir, I've analyzed their scanning patterns. They've been concentrating specifically on the Prometheus with growing intensity, almost as if they're searching for something specific. Captain, the communications officer interrupted, we're receiving a transmission from the Prometheus. Captain Reed requests urgent contact. Jack nodded. Margaret Reed, commander of the ancient vessel, rarely initiated communication unless something important was happening. The screen displayed the face of an older woman with cropped gray hair and sharp eyes. Captain Harris, we have a developing situation. The Vox have been attempting to breach our outer security protocols for the past hour. Jack frowned. Do they realize you've detected them? No, our countermeasures are discreet. A faint smile touched Reed's lips. But there's something else. I've examined their scanning patterns and they're targeting specific areas of the ship. Areas not visible from outside. A chill ran through Jack. You think they suspect? Not everything, Reed replied. But they have suspicions. The Prometheus is more than it seems, Captain Harris. It always has been. And I believe the Vox know more about its origins than they're revealing. Jack looked at his crew, then back at Reed's serious expression on the display. The mission had become far more complex, and he sensed that the mockery they endured was merely the beginning. Keep your systems on alert, Captain Reed. I believe we're about to discover why the Vox were so interested in our supposedly primitive old ship. Tom Wilson lay awake in his quarters. Following the humiliating diplomatic encounter with the Vox, he kept replaying their mocking laughter. More than that, he was intrigued by Captain Reed's warning. What made the old Prometheus so special? He sat up and grabbed his tablet. Computer, display all available information on the Starship Prometheus. The screen filled with basic facts. Commissioned 934 years ago. Continuous service with periodic upgrades. Current designation as ceremonial flagship. When Tom tried accessing technical specifications, a red message appeared. Access denied. Insufficient security clearance. That's strange, he muttered. Why would a ceremonial old ship have classified specifications? The following morning, Tom approached Anna Lee in the mess hall. The first officer sat drinking coffee and reviewing reports. "Lieutenant Lee, may I ask you about the Prometheus?" he inquired. Anna looked up, her expression guarded. "What about it, Wilson?" "I attempted to research its specifications last night, but everything's classified. Why would an outdated ship have security restrictions?" Anna glanced around to ensure privacy. "Because it's not what it seems to be, Wilson. But that's all I can discuss here." She stood. "Come with me." They proceeded to a secure meeting room where Captain Harris already waited, looking stern. "Lieutenant Wilson has been investigating the Prometheus, sir," Anna explained. Jack nodded. "I expected someone would. Have a seat, Wilson." Tom sat nervously. "Am I in trouble, sir?" "No," Jack said. "But before continuing, I need your word that what I'm about to share stays in this room." "Yes, sir. Absolutely." Jack activated a button and the room's security system engaged. The Prometheus isn't just an old ship we maintain for tradition. It's the most sophisticated vessel in the human fleet, possibly in this entire region of space. Tom's eyes widened. "But the scans, the outdated technology." "Are camouflage," Anna finished. "The outer hull is intentionally designed to appear primitive." "But why?" Tom asked. "Humanity learned a difficult lesson centuries ago," Jack explained. "When we first ventured into space, we proudly displayed our best technology. It led to conflicts with other species who either wanted our technology or felt threatened by it. So we hide our best ship in plain sight," Tom said. "Comprehension dawning! Make it look worthless so nobody pays attention to it." "Precisely," Jack said. "But the Vox aren't fooled. Somehow they suspect what the Prometheus really is." A knock interrupted them. Captain Margaret Reed entered. She was shorter than Tom expected, with gray hair and penetrating eyes that seemed to assess everything. "You're telling him about my ship," she said, not a question. "He needs to know," Jack replied, "especially since I'm assigning him to work with you." Tom nearly choked. "Me? Work on the Prometheus?" Reed studied him with those sharp eyes. "You have engineering training and you're young enough to think creatively. We need that now." She turned to a wall screen and activated it. "The Vox have requested a tour of our historical vessel. They claim cultural interest, but we know better." "What do they really want?" Tom asked. "They're looking for the core," Reed said. "The true heart of the Prometheus, which is—" Reed exchanged glances with Jack and Anna. "I'll show you. Pack your gear, Wilson. You're transferring to my ship in 1 hour." Later, Tom stood in the shuttle bay nervously, duffel bag in hand. Anna approached him. "Be careful over there," she said. "And watch Captain Reed closely. Nobody in the fleet knows more about our true history." "What do you mean, true history?" Tom asked. Anna just shook her head. "You'll see." The shuttle ride to the Prometheus was brief. As they approached, Tom got his first close view of the legendary ship. From outside, it truly appeared ancient, its hull patched in places, its design boxy and utilitarian rather than sleek like modern vessels. They docked at a basic airlock. Inside, the corridors were surprisingly ordinary, well-maintained but certainly not cutting-edge. Crew members nodded respectfully to Reed as she led Tom through the ship. "This doesn't seem very sophisticated," Tom commented. "This is just the outer shell," Reed replied. "The public areas." They entered an elevator and Reed placed her hand on a concealed scanner. "Authorization, Reed Margaret Captain. Security Protocol 7. The elevator began moving sideways, which shouldn't be possible. When the doors opened, Tom gasped. They had entered a completely different ship. The corridor was sleek and white with soft blue lighting that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The air felt fresher, with a slight tingle that energized his skin. "Welcome to the real Prometheus," Reed said, enjoying his shocked reaction. She led him to a circular room with a large central column filled with swirling light. Unlike the mechanical hum of normal engine rooms, this one was nearly silent. "Is that the core?" Tom asked, staring at the column. "Part of it. The visible part." Reed touched a panel and holographic displays appeared around them. The Prometheus was built during Earth's darkest period. when climate catastrophe and war had pushed humanity toward extinction. The displays showed images of devastated cities, flooded coastlines, and massive storms. Resources were scarce. Hope was even scarcer. But a group of brilliant engineers and scientists created something revolutionary, a ship that could carry humanity to the stars. But our history books say we didn't achieve faster-than-light travel until 200 years later, Tom said, confused. History books present the official story, Reed replied. The Prometheus was kept secret for centuries, making brief reconnaissance missions and returning with data that gradually guided our official technological development. An alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Reed's communicator activated. "Captain, we have a situation," a voice reported. "A Vox scout ship has accidentally drifted into our security perimeter." Reed's face hardened. "I'm on my way. Bring Wilson." They rushed to the bridge, the real bridge, not the decoy one Tom had glimpsed earlier. It was compact, but filled with technology he didn't recognize. A large viewing screen showed a small Vox vessel approaching the Prometheus. "They're scanning us with focused beams," an officer reported, attempting to penetrate our camouflage fields. "Let them get closer," Reed ordered calmly. "Shouldn't we warn them away?" Tom asked. Reed smiled slightly. "Just watch." When the Vox ship reached 500 meters, a barely visible pulse emanated from the Prometheus. The Vox ship's lights flickered and it began drifting. "What did you do?" Tom asked in amazement. "Defensive system, non-lethal. They'll regain power in about 30 minutes, the communications officer spoke. "Captain, the Vox flagship is contacting us. Ambassador Trell demands to speak with you immediately." Reed nodded, and the screen changed to show Trell's angry face. "Captain Reed, your vessel has attacked one of our ships. This is an act of aggression." "Your ship violated our clearly stated security perimeter, Ambassador," Reed replied calmly. "Our automated defenses responded as they would to any unauthorized approach. Your crew is unharmed." "That technology," Trell sputtered. "It's impossible with your level of development. You've been hiding advanced weaponry?" "Not weaponry, Ambassador, just defenses. And now I believe we need a more honest conversation about why you're so interested in my old, outdated ship." Trell's expression shifted, becoming more calculating. "Very well, Captain Reed. It seems we've both been less than forthcoming. I propose a private meeting." After the communication ended, Tom turned to Reed. "What just happened?" "They've confirmed their suspicions," Reed said grimly. "They know the Prometheus isn't what it appears. What they don't know yet is just how old it really is." "How old is it?" Tom asked. Reed's eyes held secrets older than Tom could imagine. "The Prometheus launched in 2241, Wilson, almost exactly 1,000 years ago, and its core technology was already ancient by human standards. Even then." Tom stared at Captain Reed, his mind struggling to process what he'd just heard. 1,000 years? That's impossible. Our official records say we only achieved space travel around 400 years ago. Reed's eyes held both pride and sadness. Official records don't always tell the complete story. "Wilson, come with me." She led him deeper into the hidden sections of the Prometheus to a secure room resembling a combination library and museum. Physical books, actual paper books, and old artifacts lined the walls and display cases. "Computer, access historical archives. Authorization, Reed Omega-7. A holographic display materialized in the room's center, showing Earth as it appeared long ago. The planet looked wounded, brown where green should be, vast areas covered in violent storms. "The year was 2240, Reed explained. Earth was dying. Climate catastrophes, resource wars, and nuclear exchanges had devastated most habitable land. Humanity faced extinction within decades. The hologram showed desperate crowds, makeshift shelters, and flooded cities. During this time, a team of engineers and scientists led by Dr. Robert Miller gathered in one of the last functioning research facilities in what was once called New Zealand. The image changed to show a group of people working in a laboratory. At their center stood a tall man with determined eyes and a short beard. Miller had made an incredible discovery years earlier, but few believed him, Reed continued. His team had recovered something from the Arctic ice as it melted. Something not made by human hands. Tom's eyes widened. Alien technology? 1,000 years ago? Reed nodded. A ship or part of one? Most thought it was a hoax, but Miller knew better. He spent years understanding its secrets. The hologram showed Miller's team working on strange components using tools that looked primitive by modern standards. With Earth dying around them, Miller's team worked against time to build humanity's salvation. The first Prometheus? They knew they couldn't save everyone, but they hoped to preserve human knowledge and perhaps find a new home among the stars. The image shifted to show a ship under construction. Tom recognized the basic shape of the Prometheus, though much rougher. The original technology was beyond their complete understanding, Reed said. But Miller was brilliant. He didn't just copy the alien technology, he improved it, adding human innovations that made it uniquely ours. Tom watched, fascinated, as the historical record played out. The ship's completion, the desperate lottery to choose its first crew, the secretive launch as wars raged across the planet. They left Earth in 2241 with just 500 people aboard, Reed said softly. They had no idea if they would find anything out here, no idea if humanity would even survive on Earth. But we did survive, Tom said. History says we rebuilt. Yes, but it was much closer than most realize. Reed touched another control and new images appeared. The Prometheus found a habitable world within 20 years. They called it Haven. Some of the crew settled there while others continued exploring. And they sent information back to Earth, Tom guessed. Eventually, yes, but not for nearly a century. When they found Earth, civilization had collapsed but was slowly rebuilding. They shared some of their discoveries, but carefully, giving humanity time to develop naturally rather than leaping ahead with technology they weren't ready for. Tom tried to process all this information. So this ship is the original Prometheus. Yes, maintained, upgraded, and preserved for a millennium. It remains our most sophisticated vessel, though few know it. The quiet moment was interrupted by an urgent communication. Captain Reed, this is the bridge. The Vox fleet is mobilizing. Multiple warships are moving into offensive positions. Reed's face hardened. I'm on my way. Wilson. With me. They rushed back to the bridge where the tactical display showed Vox ships forming a blockade around the human fleet. Message from Captain Harris, the communications officer reported. The Vox are demanding we surrender the Prometheus for inspection due to use of prohibited technology. Open a channel to the horizon, Reed ordered. Jack's face appeared on screen, looking tense. Margaret, the situation is deteriorating. Fast. Ambassador Trell is claiming the defensive system you used violates some interstellar treaty we've never heard of. It's a pretext. Jack, Reed replied. They recognize something about this ship. Something that frightens them. The Vox ambassador has requested a private meeting with both of you, Anna said, appearing beside Jack. He claims to have critical information about the Prometheus. Reed and Jack exchanged looks. Very well, Reed said. We'll meet on the horizon, neutral ground. An hour later, Tom stood nervously in the Horizon's conference room with the captains and first officers of both ships. Ambassador Trell entered, accompanied by only one aide, a serious breach of Vox protocol, suggesting this meeting was truly private. Captain Reed, Trell began without preamble, your vessel's design bears striking similarities to technology described in our most ancient records. Reed remained calm. Does it? Technology belonging to a species that vanished over 50,000 years ago, a species we know as the Forerunners. We call the artifacts we found the predecessor technology, Reed replied, surprising everyone by openly acknowledging it. Though we've made it our own over the centuries, Trell's large eyes narrowed. That technology is extremely dangerous. Your primitive species cannot possibly understand. We understand more than you think, Ambassador, Reed interrupted. We've had 1,000 years to study it. Impossible, sputtered the aide. Your species barely emerged from your planet 4 centuries ago. Reed smiled slightly. That's what we allowed everyone to believe. Trell's voice became urgent. You don't understand. The Forerunner technology led to their own extinction. That's why the Vox Collective has strict protocols against certain technological paths. We know about the risks, Reed said. Miller's team discovered them too. That's why they modified the original designs. Wait, Tom interrupted, unable to contain himself. Are you saying the Vox are afraid of the Prometheus because they think it might be dangerous? Not just dangerous, Trell said gravely. Catastrophic. The power source alone is perfectly stable, Reed finished, and has been for a millennium. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Anna checked her console. Multiple Vox warships decloaking. They've surrounded us. On the main screen, they watched as a dozen heavily armed Vox vessels appeared around the human fleet. A new Vox face appeared on the communication screen. This is High Commander Zach of the Vox Armada. Your fleet is surrounded. Surrender the vessel Prometheus immediately or we will open fire. Jack stepped forward. This is an act of war, Commander. We came in peace. Peace is precisely what we are protecting, the commander replied coldly. That ship contains technology too dangerous to exist. We will not ask again. The screen went dark. Jack turned to Reed. What are our options? Reed's face was grim. The Prometheus can protect itself, but not the entire fleet. And we're outnumbered 10-1. Then we have no choice, Jack said. We'll have to surrender. Not quite, Reed said, her eyes meeting Tom's. There is another option, but it would mean revealing capabilities we've kept hidden for centuries. If the alternative is losing the ship, I think the time for hiding is over, Jack said. Reed nodded and touched her communicator. Reed to Prometheus. Initiate protocol awakening. Authorization. Reed Alpha Prime 7-1. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then Tom felt a subtle vibration through the deck plates of the horizon. On the main screen, they watched as the old, seemingly patchwork hull of the Prometheus began to change. The metal plates shifted, realigning into a seamless surface. Lights that had been dark for centuries activated along the hull, pulsing with a soft blue glow. The entire ship seemed to shimmer, as if shedding an old skin. Ambassador Trell stared at the screen in horror. What have you done? Reed's voice was quiet, but filled with pride. Awakened the true Prometheus. The ship humanity built to survive extinction. The ship that carries the legacy of Earth's greatest engineers, who took alien technology and made it better. As they watched, the transformed ship began to move, positioning itself between the Vox Armada and the human fleet. May the stars help us all, whispered Trell. Everyone on the bridge of the horizon watched in stunned silence as the Prometheus transformed before their eyes. The old patchwork hull had become smooth and gleaming, with strange patterns of light flowing across its surface like rivers of blue fire. What's happening? Tom whispered, unable to look away from the screen. The ship is fully activating systems that have been dormant for centuries, Reed explained. Her face showed both pride and concern. We've never initiated a complete awakening before, only partial activations for testing and maintenance. The main screen suddenly split to show High Commander Zach's face again. His expression had changed from confident to alarmed. What is the meaning of this deception? He demanded. Our scans indicate power readings that should be impossible for your technology level. Jack stepped forward. Your scans were correct earlier, Commander. We disguised our true capabilities, just as you concealed your warships until you were ready to threaten us. This changes nothing, Zach declared, though his voice lacked its previous certainty. You are still outnumbered. Surrender that vessel now, or... The screen abruptly went dark as the connection was cut. A moment later, a new voice spoke, not from the communication system, but seemingly from the air around them. External communications temporarily suspended for security purposes. Tom looked around in confusion. Who said that? Reed's expression was serious. That would be Atlas. Atlas? Anna asked. What's Atlas? Before Reed could answer, the holographic display projector in the conference room activated on its own. A figure formed in the center of the room, a man in simple clothing that looked strangely old-fashioned. He appeared middle-aged with short hair and intelligent eyes. I am Atlas, the figure said. Adaptive Technological Learning and Analysis System. I serve as the central intelligence of the Prometheus. Tom stared in amazement. An AI that advanced? But our AIs are nowhere near this sophisticated. The hologram smiled slightly. I was created by Dr. Robert Miller and his team in 2240. I have been evolving since then. For 1,000 years, Jack said slowly, understanding dawning on his face. You've been conscious all this time. In various states, yes, Atlas confirmed. I have observed humanity's development, intervening only when absolutely necessary according to my core directives. Ambassador Trell had backed against the wall, his blue skin now pale. This is exactly what we feared. A self-evolving artificial intelligence with access to Forerunner technology. Your fear is understandable but misplaced, Ambassador, Atlas said, turning to face the alien. I was designed with specific limitations and ethical frameworks that the Forerunners did not implement in their systems. Why reveal yourself now? Reed asked. She seemed less surprised than the others, suggesting she had known about Atlas all along. The threat level requires it, Atlas replied. The Vox fleet is preparing to fire on the human vessels. I have activated the Prometheus's defensive capabilities, but I cannot protect the fleet without Captain Reed's authorization. Reed nodded gravely. You have it. Protect our ships, but use minimal force. No casualties if possible. Understood, Captain. On the main viewing screen, they watched as the first Vox ships fired energy weapons at the human fleet. The beams never reached their targets. They simply disappeared about halfway to the human ships, as if absorbed by an invisible barrier. Targeted energy diffusion field, Atlas explained. It converts weapon energy into harmless radiation. That's not possible, Trell whispered. Even our most advanced shields can only deflect or absorb. As I said, Dr. Miller didn't just copy the technology he found, Reed said. He improved it, made it more efficient, more humane. The Prometheus was built to save lives, not take them. The Vox ships fired again, this time concentrating all their weapons on the Prometheus itself. The ancient ship glowed brighter as it absorbed the attack, the flowing patterns of light on its hull accelerating. Energy reserves at 120% and rising, Atlas reported calmly. The attacks are actually charging our systems faster than our normal collection methods. Tom couldn't believe what he was seeing. You're using their weapons to power your ship? Correct, Lieutenant Wilson. An efficient design improvement made by Dr. Miller's team. The Vox continued their attack for several minutes, growing increasingly desperate as they realized their weapons were useless. Finally, they stopped firing. They're regrouping, Jack observed, watching the enemy ships pull back to form a new formation. Captain Reed, Atlas said, I believe this would be an appropriate time to demonstrate our capabilities. The Vox seemed to require convincing. Reed hesitated, then nodded. Approved. Non-lethal demonstration only. Of course. The Prometheus moved forward, accelerating with surprising speed for such a large vessel. It positioned itself directly in front of the main Vox flagship, then released a pulse of energy that spread outward in a perfect sphere. When the pulse touched the Vox ships, they all went dark at once. Every vessel in their fleet lost power simultaneously. What did you do to them? Anna asked. Temporary systems reset, Atlas explained. Their ships will reboot in approximately 2 minutes. All crew are unharmed, but they have lost weapons and shields temporarily. Reed turned to Ambassador Trell, who was watching in shock. Now might be a good time to suggest to your commander that we talk instead of fight. Trell seemed to struggle with himself before finally nodding. I will speak with him. When the Vox systems came back online, High Commander Zach was much more willing to negotiate. A meeting was quickly arranged in the neutral setting of the Horizons conference room. Your technology is clearly based on Forerunner designs, Zach stated once formal introductions were complete. Our people have strict protocols regarding such technology. It led to the extinction of that species. We are aware of the risks, Reed replied. That's why the original builders placed so many safeguards into the design, including Atlas. An AI with 1,000 years of evolution cannot be considered safe, argued Zach. Atlas, who was present as a hologram, spoke up. My primary directive has always been to protect humanity while allowing natural development. I could have interfered countless times to advance human technology rapidly, but that would have been harmful in the long term. What do you mean? Tom asked. Societies that advance too quickly often destroy themselves, Atlas explained. They gain power without the wisdom to use it properly. Dr. Miller understood this. That's why the Prometheus has shared its knowledge gradually over centuries. Jack looked thoughtful. So the reason humanity has advanced relatively slowly compared to species like the Vox was intentional? Yes, Reed finished. We had the technology for faster-than-light travel 1,000 years ago, but we weren't ready for it as a society. Zack still looked unconvinced. The Forerunner technology contains elements your kind cannot possibly understand. The risks are mitigated by human innovation, Atlas interrupted. What your people and the Forerunners failed to do was combine machine precision with biological intuition. The hologram gestured, and a complex diagram appeared in the air. This was the original Forerunner design, Atlas said, showing a power core with a distinctive pattern. Then the image shifted slightly. And this is Dr. Miller's modification. Do you see the difference, Commander? Zack studied the images, his expression changing from skepticism to surprise. He added a feedback loop, a self-regulating system. Exactly, Atlas said. The Forerunner technology was powerful but unstable because it lacked these safeguards. Dr. Miller added them, creating something new, something better. Neither fully human nor fully alien. Tom watched as understanding dawned on the faces of both the human and Vox leaders. The Prometheus wasn't just an old ship with advanced technology. It represented something much more important. The best of humanity, our ability to learn, adapt, and improve. Reed stepped forward. Commander, we didn't come here looking for conflict. We came seeking friendship and exchange of knowledge. Not technology, but ideas, philosophy, art, the things that truly matter to civilization. Zack was silent for a long moment. Perhaps, he said finally, we have much to learn from each other after all. As the tension in the room eased, Tom realized that the Prometheus had just accomplished its original mission from 1,000 years ago, not just to save humanity, but to help it find its place among the stars. 3 days after the confrontation, representatives from both the human fleet and the Vox Collective gathered in the grand meeting hall aboard the Prometheus. The ship had become neutral ground for negotiations, a symbol of both the past and the future. Tom Wilson stood near one of the walls, watching the proceedings with fascination. The room itself was remarkable, with walls that seemed to shift colors subtly based on the emotional tone of conversations. Captain Reed had explained it was designed to encourage honesty and cooperation. Quite different from the mockery of our first meeting, isn't it? Annalise said quietly, coming to stand beside him. Tom nodded. Hard to believe that was less than a week ago. They're not laughing at our primitive ship now. On the central platform, Captain Harris and Captain Reed sat across from High Commander Zack and Ambassador Trell. The holographic form of Atlas floated nearby, occasionally adding insights to the discussion. We've reviewed the data you've shared, Zack was saying. Your Dr. Miller's modifications to the Forerunner technology are remarkable. In 1,000 years, our scientists never considered such solutions. Perhaps because they were too focused on the power of the technology rather than its stability, Reed suggested. Miller's team had no choice. They needed something that would last for generations without maintenance. A necessity that led to innovation, Trell said thoughtfully. There is wisdom in that approach. Jack leaned forward. Now that we're being honest with each other, Commander, I'd like to understand why the Vox were so concerned about this technology in the first place, Zack. Exchanged glances with Trell before, answering, the beings you call predecessors and we call Forerunners were the most advanced civilization this galaxy has ever known. They had technology that could reshape planets, harness the energy of stars, even manipulate time in limited ways. And yet they vanished, Reed said. Not just vanished, they destroyed themselves, Zack corrected. Our oldest records tell of a great calamity. The Forerunners created energy systems that grew beyond their control. Their final legacy was a warning spread across dozens of star systems. A warning we found as well, Atlas added, in the vessel Dr. Miller discovered. Tom raised his hand hesitantly, and Reed nodded for him to speak. I still don't understand why Dr. Miller's team was able to solve problems that stumped the Forerunners. They were so much more advanced than humans were 1,000 years ago. Perhaps that was precisely the problem, Atlas suggested. The Forerunners relied so heavily on their advanced technology that they lost the ability to see simple solutions. Dr. Miller's team, working with limited resources and primitive tools, had to be creative. Necessity is the mother of invention, Anna murmured. Exactly, Atlas agreed. And there was another factor. Dr. Miller understood something the Forerunners had forgotten. What was that? Asked Zach. That technology should serve life, not the other way around, Reed answered. Every modification his team made was focused on safety, sustainability, and protecting living beings. The negotiations continued through the day, with both sides sharing knowledge and history. The Vox revealed that they had discovered Forerunner ruins centuries ago but had been unable to fully understand or safely use the technology. Humans shared the story of Earth's near destruction and the desperate mission that launched the Prometheus. As the formal meeting ended, Tom found himself approached by Trell. Lieutenant Wilson, the ambassador said, Captain Reed speaks highly of your engineering skills. Would you care to join me for a tour of one of our vessels? Our chief engineer, Drav, is particularly interested in discussing propulsion theories with you. Tom blinked in surprise. I'd be honored. Ambassador. As they walked through the corridors of the Prometheus, Trell spoke quietly. It is humbling for us, you understand. The Vox have prided ourselves on being the most technologically advanced species in this sector. To discover that humans, whom we initially dismissed, had mastered Forerunner technology a millennium ago? If it helps, Tom said, most humans don't know either. The knowledge has been kept secret, shared only with a few. Why keep such achievements hidden? Trell asked. Tom thought about this. I think because humanity needed to earn its way to the stars. If we'd been given all this technology at once, we might have destroyed ourselves with it. Wisdom beyond your years, Lieutenant, Trell commented. They reached the shuttle bay where others were gathering for the tour of the Vox ships. Tom noticed Captain Reed in deep conversation with Atlas and moved closer to hear. It's time, Margaret, the AI was saying. The original mission parameters have been fulfilled. Reed's face showed mixed emotions. Are you certain? Yes. Humanity has matured enough to understand its heritage. And now with the Vox Alliance forming, the final phase can begin. Tom couldn't contain his curiosity. Final phase of what? Reed turned to him with a slight smile. The real mission of the Prometheus, Lieutenant. Not just to preserve humanity and guide its development, but to prepare it for what comes next. I don't understand. Atlas's hologram shifted, displaying a star map of the galaxy. Specific points glowed brighter than others. These are the locations of other Forerunner sites, the AI explained. Dr. Miller found a map in the crashed vessel. The Prometheus was always meant to lead humanity to these locations. Once we were ready. Reed placed her hand on Tom's shoulder. The Forerunners didn't just leave warnings. Tom, they left gifts, knowledge, technology, art, the accumulated wisdom of a species that existed for millions of years. A galactic treasure hunt, Tom said, his eyes wide as he stared at the dozens of glowing points on the map. One that requires both wisdom and restraint, Atlas cautioned. The Forerunners' mistakes must not be repeated. That's why we need the alliance with the Vox, Reed explained. Their caution balances our curiosity. Together, we can explore these sites safely. Jack Harris joined them, having overheard the conversation. So the mockery at our first meeting ultimately led to this moment, he said with a smile. They laughed at our ancient ship, never imagining it was the key to finding the greatest treasures in the galaxy. Ambassador Trell approached, his expression now one of respect rather than condescension. Captain Reed, we've prepared a formal apology for our initial reception of your fleet. The Vox Collective wishes to acknowledge the wisdom and innovation of humanity. Reed shook her head. No apologies needed, Ambassador. Perhaps we needed that moment of humility before this new chapter begins. As the group prepared to depart for the Vox ship tour, Tom took a moment alone in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. He placed his hand against the cool window, thinking about the engineers who had built this ship 1,000 years ago, never knowing if their desperate plan would succeed. A hidden panel in the wall beside him suddenly slid open, revealing a small, worn metal plaque. Tom leaned closer to read the faded inscription. We built this ship in Earth's darkest hour, not knowing if our species will survive to see another century. To whoever reads these words in the distant future, we may not live to see the stars, but we ensured humanity will reach them. Carry our hope forward. Below were the signatures of Dr. Robert Miller and his team, the ancient engineers who had saved humanity and set it on a path to the stars. Tom brushed his fingers gently across the ancient words, feeling a connection to those desperate, brilliant people from a millennium ago. They had faced extinction with courage and innovation, creating something that had outlasted them by centuries. We won't let you down, he whispered to the ghosts of the past. We'll carry your hope forward.